Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome to the show. We have some breaking news coming out of Russia. Um, uh, it looks like that NATO is it's going to have to respond. Russia is talking about top officials is talking about that they declaring war on NATO, and more attacks could be imminent. So we're going to see. We're going to keep a close eye about what's going on with this. It's definitely getting a little hairy. But we have breaking news coming out of well, the whole Middle East and also out of Ukraine and Russia. So, and also out of Romania.
Several major stories developing in Russia, Ukraine, and Iran, so let's jump right into it. Right now, Dmitry Medvedev, a top advisor to Vladimir Putin, has declared that Europe has entered a war against Russia and that further attacks should not be a surprise to NATO. And we've also heard other top Russians repeat similar statements, indicating that further attacks on NATO are likely imminent. Meanwhile, NATO states have begun emergency meetings to determine how to respond to the Russian attack on Romania, as Russia's diplomats and embassy in the country have been closed and kicked out effective immediately. Meanwhile, Russian forces have begun openly demanding Putin's help, as Russian frontline positions in Ukraine are starting to crumble under Ukrainian drone attacks on logistics forces, and the Russian soldiers are calling the situation critical, and they have begun panicking. Meanwhile, in Iran, U.S. officials have announced today that the U.S. blockade in the Strait of Hormuz will be lifted, despite Iran still refusing to agree to U.S. demands to abandon nuclear ambitions and control over the Strait of Hormuz, and several people were blindsided by that, including myself, so we will see where this goes. But it goes without saying that today we have very large news coming out of Russia and very big news coming out of Iran, so let's jump right into our first major story, which goes to none other than Dmitry Medvedev. And right now, this is our biggest story of the day. We are currently hearing Russia make some extremely wild statements toward NATO after last night's attack in Romania using a Russian drone that ended up hitting an apartment building and injuring at least 2 Romanian citizens. We're now hearing some wild statements coming out of the Russian government, and here is what Dmitry Medvedev said. And by the way, people like to write him off quite a lot because, of course, he is a lunatic, but he is the deputy chair of the Security Council of the Russian Federation and also a top advisor to Vladimir Putin, so he does hold power even though he is a lunatic. So here's what Medvedev said this morning. He said, "Citizens of EU countries, you should realize that your authorities have unilaterally entered into a war with Russia, so be vigilant and don't be surprised by anything. The peaceful sleep is over, but you know who to ask why." So that is a insane statement to make right after an attack on a NATO country, and we saw last night, we watched all the footage on it. It appeared to be a Russian Shahed drone or a drawn drone of some sort. It hit right into the apartment building. It was a major explosion there, and thankfully, like I said, there were no death out of that situation right there. But this is a crazy statement to make. This confirms right here that it was likely an intentional attack, and Medvedev is coming out and basically is the one to say that, and now he's saying that further attacks on NATO should not be a surprise. So that indicates that more attacks are likely in the works by the Russians, and this confirms everybody's worst fears for the most part. Putin is looking to aggress against NATO, and he is now putting that into motion, and Medvedev is the messenger of all people. So that is wild to see. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Max26, and we have gotten some more images out of that attack last night on Romania at the apartment building, so let's take a look. And we can see right here in our first 2 images, this is the apartment building. Look at it. You can see where the drone entered from the rooftop right there. It went right through the roof, exploded. It completely charred out and destroyed this apartment that it hit right here. Thankfully, there was nobody apparently, obviously killed in the situation, because they could have been, but thankfully they weren't. Moving on to our next photo here, there is the entry point on the roof of that Russian drone that hit right there, and that is a devastating hit. And we saw the explosion. It was massive last night. We saw that on camera, and you could even hear the drone coming into position before it hit. So that was a devastating attack to say the least, and that's more photos right there showing just how bad it was. But moving into our next post here, this one also goes to Max 26. We are now getting word that another drone has been found in the north of Romania in the area of the commune of Besesti. According to the TVR channel, the drone did not have an explosive device on board, according to the reports. And according to the local mayor in that city, the device is apparently very large and the wingspan reaches about 3 meters on this drone that they found in this secondary city inside of Romania. So this is getting very hard for Russia to even try to claim that this was accidental, because apparently there were multiple that went in. One of them was armed with a warhead that hit the apartment, and then one of them, the one that was found in Besesti, was apparently a recon drone that did not have a warhead on board, and it simply crashed somewhere outside of a city nearby in the commune of Besesti. So that is very disturbing, and at this point, it is pretty much impossible for the Russians to say this was accidental, and it looks like they entered right from the border of Ukraine, went right over there and straight into Romanian territory, and the Romanians knew it was coming, but they still didn't shoot it down for some reason, which we'll get into in just a minute, but that's very disturbing to hear. But moving on to our next one here, we also have a post from the president of Romania. And I'm actually going to shorten this post just a little bit because it's a little bit like political word soup, but getting into the most important parts of the post, the president of Romania says he convened the Supreme Council of the National Defense meeting today at 11 a.m. to discuss the implications of this attack by Russia, and he does say that the full responsibility for this attack lies with the Russian Federation. He confirms that based on the evidence, and here's what he says he's going to do about it. He said he's going to be informing the allies. All NATO allies and European Union partners have been informed about the incident. He also says that they will deploy additional allied anti-drone capabilities, and they will also alert the UN Security Council as well about this violation.
In Albion, no matter where you go or what you do, your mount will accompany you on your journey. Perhaps you'll pick the ox, a merchant's best friend. It can carry anything you throw at it. Anything. Okay, maybe not that much. Or the fearless armored horse. It doesn't mind riding even into certain death. And in case you want to cosplay as the ultimate edgelord, we've got just the right mount for you. Perhaps you prefer a more peaceful life, that of a gatherer. This deer will help you haul your resources. Just look at these strong legs. If you're unfortunate enough to encounter this beast, honestly, just run. Or go with a cat like everyone else. It's cute, I get it.
And you know, honestly, this seems to be the favorite pastime of NATO countries at this point, writing very strong letters and strongly worded letters. That appears to be their pastime. This appears to be another one of those type of letters right here, and they'll be sending another letter that's strongly worded to the UN as well. So I guess it is what it is. But also moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to Nexta. We've also heard that Romania is taking some direct action against Russia by closing their consulate general in Constanta and also ejecting all of the Russian diplomats in the country. They'll apparently be telling them to leave immediately, and they are apparently closing down the entire embassy, or the consulate at least, inside of their country. So that is a pretty big move on itself. I guess that's better than nothing, and apparently the Russians will be ejected. So the most important thing here is the Romanians are distinctly saying that it was Russia that did this, so keep that in mind as we go over the next post here. We're about to get into Vladimir Putin's response to all this stuff right here, so we're about to get into that, but keep in mind they are saying that the responsibility lies with Russia, and there is no doubt about it. But moving into our next post here, we also have a statement from none other than the NATO spokesperson. Let's see what he said. NATO says, early this morning, an apartment building in Romania was struck by a drone as Russia attacked Ukrainian infrastructure near the border, and the Secretary General Mark Rutte is in touch with Romanian authorities, and they condemn Russia's recklessness, and NATO will continue to strengthen our defenses against all threats, including drones. So, wow, that really got Russia good there. I tell you what, Mark Rutte and the gang, they're not to be messed with. I tell you, they're very tough guys right here. They love to send out these messages. This is literally like a boilerplate message that they send out every single time a NATO country gets attacked. So this basically means nothing. So NATO has really technically not responded yet. If we're being honest here, this statement right here is largely meaningless. It's like, best wishes and, our sentiments to you or something like that. It's completely meaningless. But moving on to our next one, this one goes to Status 6 military and conflict news. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is also putting out his own statement, and he's already starting the brand new propaganda spin, and he's got a brand new one up his sleeve this time. Russian President Putin said that the origin of the drone that struck the multi-story building in Romania cannot be determined until a proper investigation is carried out. And Putin says, after all, we know that Ukrainian drones flew into Finland, Poland, and somewhere in the Baltic countries. The first reaction was exactly the same as it is now in Romania. And also, by the way, it just happens to be that Russia has fired a bunch of drones into the Baltic Baltic states. They've also fired drones into Poland, and all these instances that Putin's talking about Ukraine did it, it's actually Russia that did it. So he's once again starting his little propaganda tour, and it's very clearly Russia that did it, and Putin's now trying to run flack and say, it could have been Ukraine, it could have been X, Y, and Z, it could have been it could have been anybody, it could have been the lone drone theory, perhaps. And once again, it's bullcrap. But moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to another account here, and we've apparently allegedly heard that a Russian state TV presenter has now apparently confirmed that the attack in Romania was not accidental, at least according to the post here. And he said he called for missile attacks on Poland and Romania and stated that NATO would be intimidated and would be unable to respond to Russia. So unfortunately, I'm having to rely on the captions here for this. So at least allegedly, according to this post, there are now Russian state TV presenters out there making statements to basically go further with the attacks on NATO and start attacking Poland and also other countries as well that are generally supporting Ukraine's effort against the Russian Federation. So that's also not a good sign. We're already hearing the propaganda being sent out to the Russian civilians about ramping up these attacks, which is not uncommon, by the way. The Russian state media loves to do this. So apparently that's another example of Russian aggression, I guess you could say. So we'll have to see what NATO does about it. But moving into our next one, this one goes to Spromdy Stratcom Center, and we're also hearing about a much worsening situation at the front lines and rear lines of the Russian forces inside of Ukraine. And we can see right here that the Russian forces are now saying that the situation is critical and they're under Ukraine's relentless drone attacks on the southern corridor, with the logistics broken down and difficulty getting supplies to the frontline troops. And this is all because Ukraine started attacking the rear line logistics that Russia uses to get these ammunition and also supplies to the frontline forces that are fighting against Ukraine. So as you can see right here, this is the Telegram post right here from the Russian forces, and they say that literally logistics have been suffering for almost a month, and this affects the delivery of products not only to the rear but also to the front line as well. So the Russians are panicking, and they are basically begging Vladimir Putin to do something to protect their guys, but plot twist, there's really nothing they can do about it. So it's only getting worse, really. Like, the amount of damage we're seeing on the back highways and rear lines is unbelievable. We have endless footage showing that over the last couple of weeks, and now we're seeing even more of it today. So let's go ahead and jump right into our next one here, which goes to open source intel. And right here we can actually see that two of those kamikaze drones that Ukraine's using to hit the rear line logistics apparently hit a truck near Berdyansk. One of the drones were shot down before it hit, but there was a second one that then came in and then connected with the target. So let's take a look at this video. This is quite wild footage right here, and let's see exactly how bad it is to defend against these Ukrainian drones. Let's have a look. All right, so there's the first drone. Oh, as you can see, it's a bit of a dud. It didn't quite work right. But so the truck's still intact. The Russians are still running around, getting ready to defend. This guy's yelling in the background for no reason. Oh, there's something else happening. There's a second one. There it is right there. And they're now firing at that one coming in. There it goes. It's coming down. And bam, a direct hit, it connected. And as you can see right there, that truck is now destroyed, that you can see right here in the video. So those are the type of drones that Ukraine's now using to hit these logistics trucks right here. And you can see that the drones are an unusual variety. They appear to be like styrofoam or cardboard or something. They're very cheap, and also they're very flimsy. As you can see, that first one there, when it bounced off, it just like flung right off like it was a cheap piece of cardboard. But it does work, and it's very effective. As you can see, the second one did connect, and it hit badly and destroyed that truck. So a very big hit, and just a look into the type of drones that are being used for these logistics attacks. But believe it or not, it actually gets worse for the Russians. And moving into our next post here, this one goes to Null Reports, and we're now hearing that Russian channels are complaining that Ukraine has begun active remote mining of the rear roads in occupied territory. So not only are the drones attacking trucks, but now there's apparently mines being dropped right next to the logistics routes. And I'm not even really sure what the Russians can do about that. I mean, if they just happen to run past one of these and it hits their truck, I mean, I'm not even sure how they know that that this is coming. So this is quite a scene right here. This is the Russian claim, by the way, that apparently Ukraine's now mining the roads. So if that turns out to be accurate, and that's true right there, that's a big move by Ukraine. And I would say Russian logistics are in some deep trouble for probably the near future and also the longer future too at this point. But moving into our next one, this one goes to Exile Nova Plus, and we see that the Russians are coming up with a temporary solution while they beg Vladimir Putin to help out. And this right here is what the Russians came up with. They came up with the zebra strategy, which is an interesting strategy because, of course, zebras aren't exactly native to Ukraine. But as you can see right here, there it is. This is what they're coming up with. This is how they're going to try to defend against these attacks. They're painting white stripes all over their trucks. And I'm not totally sure how that's going to help because, of course, the mines on the side of the road really don't care about the camo in the truck. Also, the drones, they can identify a moving object no matter what the color of it is. So I guess this is desperation is what this really is right here. They don't really have a strategy and they're trying to do something to make it look like they're trying to defend, but I don't think the zebra strategy is going to work. I think this right here is going to fail. And also, this actually might make the trucks stand out even worse than they were previously as the dark green that was on the trucks. So I don't even understand this right here, but apparently that's the Russian way. When they're broke, Putin won't help them out, so they resort to zebra paint apparently to make it work. But moving into our next one, this one goes to Tendar. We've also seen that in Russian-occupied Crimea, apparently the gasoline situation is getting even worse there, and apparently from what we're seeing in the video, many gas stations are down to zero according to what we've seen here. So let's take a quick look at the beginning of this video just to show you the gas stations and the situation there at this area in Crimea. So let's take a peek. So there you can see it. There was all zeros in that board right there. Apparently that station's out of gas. That station's out of gas. This station right here, apparently also out of gas as well from the looks of it. So moving on forward here, this guy's talking, saying something. You can see there's more gas stations with zeros on the board and also no gas apparently there. So Crimea is having a really, really bad gas shortage. But like we said before, it has already spread to the Russian mainland and it is expected to get worse because this is due to all the refinery attacks that Ukraine's conducting in the Russian mainland, and that's why they're now running out of gasoline because they simply cannot refine the petroleum products into gasoline fast enough to keep the Russians fueled up with their vehicles. So that's going to have problems for the military, problems for the civilians, and we've gone over that before, but it is getting worse as of today. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Military News Ukraine. We've also heard about one of the longest strikes I have ever seen by the Ukrainians into mainland Russia. And we can see right here that for the first time since the beginning of the war, Yamal, Russia, which is more than 2,500 kilometers from Ukraine's state border, was under a missile threat. And this gives you an idea right here of how far away this actually is. There's Ukraine at the very bottom left of the map, and over 2,500 kilometers away, there's Yamal, Russia, way up there in the top. I mean, look at how close Moscow is to this border situation compared to Yamal. I mean, that's wild right there. I'm not even really sure entirely what they're trying to target. Maybe a refinery in that area possibly, but that is wild to see that. That is one of the longest strikes I've ever seen, and we're not entirely sure what the munition was that was used in this strike. And I'm sure by stream time tonight we'll probably have more detail about this right here, so maybe we'll be able to bring you a video of the attack possibly, but right now that's all we know is simply the missile alerts that recently went off in Yamal. But jumping into our next one here, we're going to move on to our Iran news for a second, because we've gotten some news today that has legitimately blindsided me. I'm not really sure what to make of this, but I'll simply let you come up to your own determination about it. So let's jump right into our Iran news, because we got some big happenings with the Strait of Hormuz and the Iranian regime. And we do have a post from the US president. I'll just go ahead and read this off and let you see what he said directly. He said, Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb, and the Hormuz Strait must be immediately open, no tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions, and all water mines, bombs if any, will be terminated. We have removed through detonation numerous such mines with our great underwater minesweepers, at least allegedly according to the president. He's claiming that. He said Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left, which will not be many, once again, allegedly. Ships caught in the strait due to our amazing and unprecedented naval blockade, which will now be lifted, may start the process of heading home. He said, say hello to your wives, husbands, parents, and families from me, your favorite president. The enriched material, sometimes referred to as nuclear dust, which is buried deep underground with virtually collapsed mountains caused by our powerful B-2 bomber attack 11 months ago sitting on top of it, will be unearthed by the United States, which it is agreed is the only country along with China with the mechanical capability of doing so in close coordination and conjunction with the Islamic Republic of Iran plus the International Atomic Energy Agency, and destroyed. No money will be exchanged until further notice, and other items of far less importance have been agreed to, and I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination, and thanks for your attention to the matter. So I'm already seeing people start to interpret this multiple different ways, but the way I'm interpreting this post right here is it sounds like the US is already lifting the naval blockade before Iran's even agreed to all these terms that are laid out here in this post. He said, which will now be lifted, referring to the US naval blockade. That's what it says right there, highlighted in red in this post. And then there's all these other terms that Iran must agree to at the top. So to me, it sounds like it's a preemptive lifting of the blockade. I know some people are saying that actually it means that Iran has to agree to the terms first and then the blockade will be lifted. That's not the way I'm interpreting this right here. So, you know, I will admit the post is kind of strangely worded, so there is some room for interpretation, but we'll have to see exactly what the clarification is of this. Also, by the way, this post is loaded with unverified claims, like completely loaded with it. So a lot of these things, like the claims about the mine removal, none of that stuff is confirmed. We can't independently confirm that either, so we're having to rely on the words of the president for that. So we'll have to see what this turns into. Right now, Iran is saying this is bogus, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Iran's completely debunking all this right here, so we'll have to see what they say, but that's what the president's saying right now. So jumping into our next post, this one goes to open source intel. And like I said, Iran is largely saying that that's bogus. Fars News is allegedly accusing the US president of fabricating key deal terms, and they say the provisions on the Strait of Hormuz and nuclear dismantlement doesn't exist in the text. And they said Iran demands $12 billion in frozen assets unblocked and a Lebanon ceasefire on the proxy forces terms before talks proceed, and the deal is still awaiting final Iranian approval, and sources cited by Fars call the US president's claims a mix of truth and fabrication to declare premature victory.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 4.
So it's up to interpretation who the hell you believe at this point, because of course I don't really tend to believe the Iranians, definitely not, because they're the enemy country and also they lie like crazy and they're extremists. But at the same time though, the wildly bold claims being made by the president here in this post are also seem to be a little bit out of reality or out of touch. I'm not really sure what to make of any of this right now, but it does seem to be that the US is trying to force through a deal when Iran doesn't even want to negotiate. So I mean, it's up for interpretation. It's a clown show. That's an understatement. But jumping into our next one here, the Iranians are making it very clear that they're not really wanting to talk. And here's what MB Ghalibaf said, by the way, and he is the speaker of Iran's parliament, so he's obviously a top official. He said Iran will seize concessions not through dialogue but with missiles. In negotiations, we merely make them understand. He said we have no trust in guarantees or words, only actions are the measure. No action will be taken before the other side acts, which also seems to support the idea that the naval blockade will have to be lifted first by the United States before Iran complies with the agreement. Ghalibaf also said the winner of any agreement is the one who is better prepared for war from the day after, which whatever that means, I don't know. But as you can see right here, the Iranians are still running their mouth like crazy, which indicates that the negotiations are probably not going as well as the US president is suggesting. So it's not the first time the president suggested that they're going well and then they haven't been going well. We just saw Iran launch an attack on Kuwait, which houses US forces. We just saw that happen yesterday. So, you know, it is what it is, folks. I'm a little bit frustrated having to cover this at this point because I can't really take the president's words at face value because, you know, we all know why. And we also can't take the Iranians at face value either. So it kind of is what it is at this point. The Iran situation is wild, to say the least. Well, with that is actually our last piece of news of the video. So before you go, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video and want more daily updates just like this, and also hit that like button as well. And if you want to leave us a comment down below, if you want to say, like, for example, if you disagree with an opinion I've said in the video.
Definitely, I appreciate everybody stopping in. I see we got 5 on, 8 on Kick, 4 on Twitch. What is that? 4 on YouTube. I appreciate y'all stopping in. Really means a lot. Definitely appreciate all the new subscribers that has popped in and followed. Definitely appreciate that. I mean, we're climbing the ladder, y'all. I really appreciate all y'all do dropping in and dropping your chats and, well, just watching, period. This is the update to let y'all know about what's going on with crazy Russia. They at it again. Take the mainstream words with a grain of salt. So we'll see what happens and see what comes over this. We're going to keep y'all notified and keep y'all posted about what's going on. So just make sure y'all drop in. This is our breaking news in the afternoon, and we'll be back on at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time tonight. We will be live then as well. So make sure y'all drop in and drop your chats or call in and get heard. Whatever one y'all want to do. But that is the breaking news for now, and I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. And I will be talking